Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your hosts, U.S. Air Force veterans Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as they will bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your hosts, Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Frontline. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Jay Johnson, and it is always a pleasure. I feel like I say this to you all the time. Always a pleasure to be in this time and space with you. And I am joined by my partner in crime, sometimes referred to as the Queen. I'm trying to break her of the habit. The one and only Miss Donna Hoffmeyer. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good. And just for the audience, you started it.
I started what?
The Queen thing.
I did? I thought that came from Brian.
No. Yes, other words. And it's not
Queen. It's not Queen. Well, you know, I may have said it one time as a term of endearment, but how it's stuck is beyond me. So I don't know how this.
You started it, and that's the end of it. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Look, we got a good episode again, right? Another guest in studio with us who you'll introduce in just a moment. Really excited. I always love just to do a check-in. What's happening in your world? Anything of noteworthy?
Well, we have a lot going on. So business building and moving forward with that. And that is like a whole new adventure. I'm starting to kind of figure out what I need and the next steps for 2023 launch.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. I bite my nails, but it's very exciting. And then, of course, we record these, right? So we're right before Christmas.
Right now, yeah. They'll listen to this. We'll already be into the new year, and you'll be a multimillionaire by then.
We can only hope. We'll put that out in the universe.
Declare it now.
Okay, declare it. Take it. All of that. You got it.
Yeah, I like it now.
Right now we're doing Christmas concerts, and so we just did. My
Your kiddos are out.
Yeah, one plays the trumpet, the other one plays the clarinet. No, they're not out yet. They won't get out till the 16th. But...
I meant out doing these things. Out doing concerts, recitals,
concerts and plays and whatever else they pop with. And the random, like the other day.
Things just show up.
Love is what keeps these children alive some days.
It's good to love them.
Let me tell you, because at 9:06 at night, as I'm tucking my child in bed, she says to me, "Hey, Mom, did you get the cereal box I needed for my project?" I'm like, "Oh boy, what cereal box?"
Yeah.
Anyways, the short version of that is that she had a project. I said, "When's the project due?" "Tomorrow, and I have to present." And so Brian is downstairs hollering, "What do I need to get?" Not very happy. I looked at her and I said,
"You don't just keep these things laying around? I don't understand."
Yeah, so not that moment. We didn't have one. So she never mentioned this. Because, in her mind she did, because she said the word cereal box somewhere in the last week. She said it, and I am supposed to know everything that goes on with that.
If she says it's important, you should take note and then just from there put the pieces together.
Yes. So that it seems to be the event, because then the next night we had to go to one of the Christmas plays, to go watch it, and then it was her saying, "Mom, we got to leave early because I have to go learn the lines for my play because of something, something, something." And I'm looking at her, and it's now 8:00 at night.
Perfect.
Yeah. So she is not winning.
So because of love, she still gets air in her lungs. That's what I'm hearing.
And I remind myself, children are here to learn.
That's 100% true.
And she is learning, and they are here to teach us. And boy, am I getting my patience tested.
Well, I mean, look, they're doing good things, and you and Brian are certainly giving them an opportunity to expand their horizons, right, by being involved in these things
and live,
and that's hopefully they count that as a blessing,
right?
Later in life on the business front, that's exciting for you, exciting for you. And if it were easy, Donna, we've talked about this in the past. If it were easy, everyone would do it, but everyone doesn't, right? Because they don't have the wherewithal. If you want the truth,
there's a lot of think through.
Yeah, and you've been working, thinking, building, connecting. And so it's fun for me on the sideline to kind of watch all this come to fruition for you.
It is. I mean, we don't see each other as much.
Yeah,
right?
We've both been different directions.
We're both doing our own thing. Your business is blowing up, mine's starting up. And you know what? It kind of all, I'm gonna wrap this to our guests, right? We're all talking about resiliency, right? And resiliency comes in many, many, many different ways.
Yeah.
And so continuing our resiliency series, right? We're bringing on a guest now. The interesting thing about this guest is that he's actually, you'll learn about this. We met him through a nonprofit that we've helped out with, Operation Comfort, right?
We talked about this not too terribly long ago.
Yes, and I think we talked about how we donated a hand recumbent bicycle. And this guest is the person that we actually
who received it.
Yeah, we donated this to, and we all became fast friends. And I am telling you, he really is the epitome of resiliency.
I'm a little worried about this interview because he's so shy. It's tough to get him
shy. That is not.
They'll figure this out in a little bit. That I was completely having fun when I said that.
Yeah. See, he's already giggling, right? Yeah. You know that. So I want to introduce Patrick Kelly. And before you say a word, Patrick, I'm going to read a little bit about you. This is a Marine, and he joined in 1975 is when he first came in, and he got out in 1985 for a medical retirement, but it was due to a parachuting accident. So that by itself tells you he's a little bit of adrenaline junkie, just to let you know. And I'm not even going to get into it because the stories are long of what he had to go through. And then he went and became a college student, and he actually went to the Rochester Institute of Technology because he's originally from Plattsburgh, New York. And he actually earned a degree to become a medical illustrator.
Nice.
Now, he is also very active, and he actually does a lot with the Kwan Kai Do martial arts. And I'm not going to get into those details because there is a lot with his activity. So we are going to ask questions, and we're going to let this open up to the audience to see everything that makes up Patrick Kelly. And so with no further ado, there he is, the one and only with the best laugh ever, one Patrick Kelly. How are you?
Doing great.
It's always good to see you, Patrick. We always say this when we're recording these podcasts. We're in studio, we see each other, but our listeners are only going to get to hear the audio of this. But it's always good to see you and the smile on your face. And this is exciting. We've been looking forward to this.
We have. And when we saw him last time, he was all clean shaven. And right now, he's looking a little bit between
he's channeling Santa
and Kenny Rogers.
Oh, look, Kenny Rogers going
on there.
Well, there's a reason for that.
There's a reason.
There's always
I was supposed to be in biathlon camp up in Casper, Wyoming. And it's always a little bit warmer when you've got some facial hair.
Oh,
I'm sure they can attest to that.
But here in the San Antonio area, Patrick, you've grown that out, and here we are hovering around 80 degrees and
I know
pre-Christmas. This is nuts.
I think we just need to put a little hat on you and a little red suit and call it good. You'd be good.
Well, that's what my friends said for that I should volunteer for Christmas. Just wear one of them fat suits and. Because they said I had the beard and I had the laugh. So.
And you got the laugh.
Yeah, but not the physique because you are still in shape, my friend. You're still in shape.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. So, all right. So let's start kind of from the beginning here. You grew up in New York, right?
Upstate New York. We do not claim the city. I'm about as far up as the Canadian
It's very
border.
different. That's right. I'm an East Coast girl. And when you talk to New York people, it's either I'm from New York and they're saying the city, or I'm upstate and it's the rest of the state, right?
Important to know.
Up in the Adirondacks, God's country.
Beautiful up there too. It's absolutely beautiful that way. So
well, it's not as beautiful right now, only because I'm not there, but they got to live with it.
There's the shy part, by the way.
Yeah.
There's the laugh.
Yeah.
There we go. We're good.
Got it out of them already.
See?
We're ready to go.
What led you into the Marines? What was your...
Well, I grew up poor, and I came from a military family. They were all Air Force, and we had the Air Force base there. So everybody thought a lot of the military. So, And I had an uncle who was a Marine. I'd never met him until my father died, and that was after I was in the Marine Corps. But I know when my grandmother would talk about him, he was like almost a god. So it kind of put and they were the best, the baddest. So that was something I always wanted to be, the best. Because when you grow up poor and being called names all the time and bullied, and I was the smallest guy, even in my family, you just learn to want to be better than other people. You want to be the best runner. You want to be the best fighter. You want to be the best at whatever it is. So, because then that gives you a little something special that somebody else didn't have, you know. And so that steered me towards it. And my brother wanted to go, and he's 364 days older, not even a year. I won't give it to him. It's only 364 days, not a year. He wanted to go in the Army on a buddy system. So in 1975, he talked me into going in with him, and he's blind in one eye. And that was the year they changed everything. It was kind of funny because before that, you used to just put your hand over your face to read the eye chart. So he just get a little crack there. He could read it really good. He had better eyesight than most people with two eyes. That's no joke. But that was the year they changed to the motor vehicles where you had to look into the thing and they would cut it off. Well, and we had the highest IQs of everybody down there. We're the most physically fit, everything. He beat me by 2 points, actually, on the ASVAB. And so they told him he couldn't go in the Army. And I was mad because I didn't want to go in the Army. I wanted to go in the Marines. So long story short is after they did all their hoorah stuff, they tried telling me they were going to make me a cannon cocker, and I was dumber than grass, not realizing that you couldn't sign up for Green Berets, because if I was going to go in the Army, I wanted to do something, dramatic, none of that, silly stuff. So the lady starts laughing at me. She says, if you want the GI Bill, you'll become a cannon cocker. And I'm like, no. And just then, that's when the Marine recruiter walked by and he said, give me that man's jacket. And it was the first time in my life that somebody didn't give me a hard time about being a fighter. And he says, where the hell were you a couple of weeks ago? I got attacked by 4 guys. He said, now they're sucking soup through a straw. He said, I could have used you. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Somebody actually likes a fighter. So he said, the only thing I can tell you is I won't lie to you. And that's my motto, one of my mottos. I don't lie, cheat, or steal. Don't ever impugn my integrity, because it's the only thing I have. My grandfather taught me that. I learned just about 95% of everything I hold dear from my grandfather. And that was one of his things. Don't lie, cheat, or steal. You can lose your house, your car, your money, everything you own. The only thing you cannot lose is your integrity. You're the only person that can give that away. And to learn that before I was 9 years old, I find that kind of, that's how much of a role model that man was.
I love
for me. And I've never forgot that. And so anyways, I ended up going into Marine Corps. And while I was in there, talking about resilience, and I thought I was home. When I got there, I thought, oh my God, this is great. I love it. I thought I was at a spa or something for guys who like to work out. And the I think it was the second day I was there, I went up to the drill instructor and asked him if I could go out and work out because I was getting out of shape. Because back then, I used to run 26 miles every day. I would average 5-minute mile. When I was done running in the summer and spring, I would run off the dock, jump into Lake Champlain, swim 1 mile out to Boat Island, and then 1 mile back. And then I do my martial arts, my knife throwing. I could put 12 nines in a 1-inch square. I was very dedicated. And so it just lined up really good for me.
Patrick, you just needed to bike and you could have done a marathon every day.
Right. Well, legs work, I would.
Yeah.
But my drill instructor was mad at somebody else. And this is back, I'm not calling it the old Corps. Everybody calls it the old Corps. It was just when I was in, they were a little bit different, shall we say. He was mad at somebody else. I was closer. I was doing push-ups and bends and thrusts, and he decided to stomp on my left hand because I wanted to go into the Guinness Book World Records for the fast two-hand push-ups in 60 seconds. When I went in the Corps, I could do 450 push-ups on two hands and 150 on each arm. I was a physical junkie nut job. Loved it though. But it came in very handy. But I never complained. I went through 2/3 of boot camp with just one arm. The only mistake I really made was the drill instructor said, drop down and give me 20. And I said, which hand? You don't do that in boot camp. So he had me doing push-ups, and it's a linoleum floor, right? So, and that's the middle of the summer. I mean, it is hot. South Carolina, swamp country, right? So I'm sweating so profusely, and everything kind of tickles me. And so it was so wet that my hands kept slapping out, and my chest was like smacking on the floor, and I'm coming back up. Well, that tickled me. So I kept laughing, and they just kept trying to, work me out until I gave up, and finally they gave up. So
it's impressive to hear that you wore the Marines out. That's
well, they kind of gave up because I wasn't smart enough to quit. But they loved that about me, was that, and I stuttered really bad when I went in, and a lot of that was from my childhood. I couldn't get out 2 words without either I forgot what I was talking about or you'd forget what I was talking about, Jay. I mean, I am not joking when I say that. Right. And unless it was a really short sentence. And then even then there were syllables that I still to this day can't say. I will purposely mispronounce something and let somebody think I'm stupid, then to sit there and start stuttering and they laugh at me because I don't like that. I have no tolerance for that kind of thing. So anyways, long story short is one day the assistant series commander, who was a force recon, I mean, those are the bad dudes, right? So anyways, the drill instructors come up. He had heard about my Chinese push-ups and one-hand push-ups and all that, so he wanted to see them. So I did them, and then he got up and asked me a question, and I started stuttering. Well, down there, they got these things called slash pines. It's probably about that big around, about a size of a athlete's leg, top of their leg. And they're soft. It's nothing to brag about. But it was right there by the officer's head. And he started mocking me. And I don't like that. So I know he had to feel the hairs on the back of my hand as it came across his face when I hit that tree and when I hit that branch, I hit it so hard, so fast, because that's how you break things, go fast. And I snapped it clean. And then I went and got in the line and never got picked on again for that. If I'd have hit him, I took his head clean off.
Were you doing martial arts when you were younger?
Oh yeah. I've done martial arts since I was some form or another, since I was about 7 years old. When I was in Atlanta, Georgia, I think I was 15 or 16, lived over there by Peachtree, Lenox Lane area. There was a mall down there. I don't know if it's still there or not, but I was always very protective of my sisters and went to North Fulton. God, I can't believe I'm remembering these things. North Fulton High School. And there was going to be this big gang riot thing after school, and I'm wearing dress clothes, right? And I always carried one. It was kind of like a half moon gym bag. Mm-hmm. And they said, "Aren't you afraid, to go home after school?" I'm like, "Hell no!" And they said, "Why not?" I opened the bag. I started strapping on my knives and stuff. And people are downright polite when you go home like that. But I didn't care. I feared nobody because I figured, what's the worst you can do? Kill me. And, and I'm going to do a lot more damage to you before I do go down. So I just had a different kind of a mindset. And that's why I was so good in the Marine Corps, because I didn't have that fear. I didn't care if you broke my arms. I just didn't care. I've run 2 miles on broken legs. I've run a quarter of a mile with a knife in my back. I don't care. Whatever the mission, once I get something in my head and I can, visualize it, it's done. because I will always achieve my goal. Actually,
without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
Shyness. Nice.
But that's what we're talking about.
Hey, Patrick, let's talk about your time in service. So
okay.
Maybe give just a quick overview of the different things you were doing and lead us up to when you first encountered injury that, was pretty substantial that started you.
Well, that was boot camp.
Yeah.
When they crushed my hand. Well, once I got out, because you don't complain in the Marine Corps. That was very, very bad thing to do. They would give you what they called wimp chits, and if you used your wimp chit, that was supposed to help you not have to, do a 50-mile hump or, do all these very strenuous things. And but they didn't like that because that meant you were a fifth wheel, and I got called that at one time. But anyways, long story short is, I finally couldn't use my hand anymore, and I knew it wasn't a bone bruise because I'd had enough injuries before I went into Marine Corps to know the difference between something being broken and something being bruised. And so I went, and they sent me to the Beaufort Naval Medical Center for surgery. They took a bone off my left iliac crest. That's the bone right there at your hip on my left side to fuse the second and third metacarpal in my hand. Well, they did an unsterile technique, ended up getting a very bad infection. And before it ever healed, they sent me over to Okinawa. Well, that's one of the worst things you can do is go into a jungle area, especially when you've already got an infection. So I ended up with gangrene and an infection of the bone. It was so bad, I joke you not, I couldn't even stand to be around myself. Like if I had to take a shower and you're in the room, it would just, that putrid smell would gag me. And every day I'd have to go to sick call. They'd use silver nitrate. It's like a big Q-tip on a wooden stick.
Uh-huh.
And they'd rub it over that, and I'd walk in and I'd be limping out with tears running down my eyes. I mean, it was terrible. And I knew every day that I had to do this. Well, any logical person would read the notes. But after 6 months, it's saying, wound looks good, should heal any day. Well, after 6 months, I'd start questioning that myself. So finally, I couldn't take the smell anymore. I didn't want to take the pain anymore. So I went to the hospital instead of sick call. So I get over there, and doctors, some of them, I don't know where they get their bedside manner. I'm just sitting there on the table, and the two doctors are talking, and they said, "Oh, he's got gangrene. We're gonna have to send him back to have that leg amputated." And I don't know who the hell did the surgery, but they put the screws in the wrong place. I'm just sitting. I'm like 19. I couldn't have been 20, Jay. I mean, and I'm thinking, oh my God, they're gonna cut. And if they had to, they would have had to go all the way to the hip. It ain't like it would have been above knee or below knee.
Yeah.
So God always takes care of me. I do believe that with all my heart. And I was, even when I was, dumb and stupid and young, boy, I found out that my guardian angel is actually in recovery right now. I mean, I drove her to drink. I mean, poor thing. I just drove her crazy. So anyways, but she got the golden wings instead of the regular wings, because, she was on full-time job. But anyways, so I get in real late at night. And of course, you're not going to believe this, but, the military actually made a mistake. They sent me to the wrong place. I was supposed to go to Balboa Hospital. We used to call it the Pink Elephant down in San Diego. And they were going to amputate my leg and all that stuff. Well, somehow I ended up at the Nixon hospital that they built for Nixon at Camp Pendleton, the Navy Regional Medical Center. And I met this doctor, Dr. Murphy. I mean, if this man would have asked me to kill somebody, I would have had to think about it seriously, because that's how much I love this guy. He said, I think I can save that leg. We learned this technique. They've been doing it all wrong. We learned this technique in Vietnam. And I'm like I said, 19, 20 years old. You're telling me you think you're going to save my leg? Go for it. What have I got to lose?
Really, at that point.
Right. He said, you'll probably be in strict isolation for a week, possibly 2 weeks. Well, I was in for 2 straight months because I heal slower than other people. I bleed more, I heal slower, and I have diabetes on both sides of my family, and that kind of affects your healing process. Donna can tell you about that. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, and like I said, I was dumber and grass. That's my polite way of saying that. So in the meantime, the nurses were having a good time trying to figure out which one was going to take me home first. So, being the, honorable Marine that I am. Anyway, we just get that part. Saved my leg. And while I was in the hospital, I can't stand not to have a job. So, I was going crazy. So Dr. Murphy would have me go around doing vitals with him, like the blood pressure, all that stuff, pulses, changing. And then he also would have me work with him instead of the corpsman. He'd have me doing dressing changes and all that stuff. Well, of course, I had to get a little more adventurous. I wanted to go down. I worked my favorite one. It just popped in my head. I will never forget this little girl, Jennifer, biggest, greenest, blue eyes you ever seen in your life. She was a failure to thrive. And at that time, I was growing a beard because I also had what they call jungle rot on my face. Mm-hmm. And when I'd be at night, I'd be scratching my feet, then I'd scratch my face. I ended up getting it on my face, although they're trying to tell me that there's no such thing as jungle rot. Okay, whatever. So they allowed me to grow a beard because Marine Corps order states just around the affected area, 1/4 of an inch. You're going to look kind of stupid with these little patches, kind of look like a leper. So General Quinn, he was the commanding general for the 1st Marine Division. He told them to leave me alone and let me grow the beard because I was taking care of him while he was in the hospital as well. And I'd worked down in the pharmacy. They actually put me up for Sailor of the Quarter. I'd have been the 1st Marine in history to ever make it. Of course, they weren't going to let me win it. But to know that I missed it by the 1/4 of my teeth made me feel good. Because I always like to turn a negative into a positive. And I've always done that. And I did so good that they kept me on because I still had to go through a lot of recovery and all that stuff. They kept me on as a Marine liaison. So I was taking care of all the deaths for the West Coast. I, let the units know if they had somebody in. We had recruits and all of that kind of stuff, and really liked it, excelled at it, and went up for real proud of it because went up for meritorious sergeant, and I actually won the top quality Marine award was when General Wilson, Medal of Winter recipient, he was the commandant of the Marine Corps. And General Jasilska was the assistant commandant of the Marine Corps. I got the award from General Wilson, and General Jasilska handed it to me personally. So I get proud of those little things, and I got all kinds of awards from the Navy as well because they had me take over their barracks because it went really bad. Some of the stuff is kind of graphic, but anyways, I had a really good reputation of that. Took that over, had a couple little conflicts with the master chief of the hospital because I would tell them what the orders are, and they were Sergeant Major didn't know what the hell he was talking about. So I was kind of a thorn in his butt, but that's the way I was trained. You always take care of your troops. And if you put them under me, by God, I'm going to take care of them just as good as I'm going to take care of a Marine in my unit. So took real good care of them, and they took care of me, and then went up for meritorious sergeant. Like I said, it was 5 days, 5 bases, the whole West Coast. I was the 2nd sergeant picked. So, and then when I was there, they said, "Hey, we saw you got recommended for officer school." And I said, "Yeah, but I didn't want to be just another officer. I wanted to stay and enlist and be a, outstanding Marine."
So let me ask you this question. So because that's kind of like, I'm listening to this, I'm like, oh my Lord, you came in, what was when you first came in, what were you coming in for as a Marine?
When I was in 0311, but I had multiple MOSs, 0351, 46.
What was your original, but what was it? Like, for the audience, people don't know the numbers. What?
0311 is infantry.
Okay, so it's kind of interesting, very different times than our times. So you came in as infantry, you get hurt, you kind of suck it up, buttercup, do your thing, It's not getting better. You start going to get care. And now they're like, hey, we need to do some work, which results when they did the work, they did it it was your hip, right? That they went,
yes,
yep. And then that gets infected. And apparently where you were, they were not catching this. You were supposed to get to the point where now you need an amputation, right? Well, they're saying that's where it is. But divine intervention says, oh, no Balboa, you're going to be over at the Nixon. You end up over there by happenstance. This doctor's like, I can save your leg, and 2 months to heal. So the leg heals, right? And
way later.
So in those 2 months that you were there, as you were going a little stir crazy, you start helping out, and they're like, hey, we can use you. It was a very different time, right? Because now, I don't know the Marines, but in the Air Force, there's no way you can just switch somebody without 4 tons of paperwork, 3 tons of red tape, and lots of questions. So kind of fascinating to me to see that they were like, hey, we're going to keep him busy and we can utilize him this way. When now you're doing all this stuff and you're kind of like sort of a rising star here helping out, how long did it take for that leg to heal? Were you doing all these other things and your leg was still healing, or was it?
Yes. No, I was still doing that. And I got a good reputation even with the nurses and stuff. You know, I was kind of like always hobbling around and all that stuff. I had a reputation there too, but it was a different reputation. What I'm talking about is if you couldn't get something, and I was a corporal at that time, they said, just ask Corporal Kelly, he'll get it for you. Because nobody,
the go-to guy. I mean,
yes,
like that go.
I could get you anything you wanted. If I couldn't get it, it didn't exist.
That's good.
Yeah. And that's why General Quinn always liked me.
So the leg heals. How long? Like, were you in the hospital to finish this healing, or you get out, or what?
Nope, got out
at this point.
Well, it was a crazy transition because even when I told you I went up for that meritorious board, I'd give myself a PFT every week. A PFT is a physical fitness test. There's only 300 points. If you get 300 points, it's perfect. So it was very highly sought after, and it helped you get promoted quicker. Right. And, you know, just like Marine Corps wasn't really big on academics. That's a polite way of saying it.
We still respect them for what they do.
What we do.
We get to pick on them. We get to pick the crayon eaters and all that stuff, and we're the and we accept.
Well, it's like I say, I never said I was mature. I just said I'm damn good looking. So, I mean, I got standards that are very low, but I do have them.
They're there. So when this was all going on, when did you get medically retired? Was it because of the hip?
Oh, no. There was a transition there eventually because I wanted to go to the drill field, you know, because after I went through all those other things. And the first thing they said, why do you want to be a sergeant? I said, I don't. I want to be a gunnery sergeant. But unfortunately, this is the process I have to go through. So they thought that was funny, you know, because I always like to try to bring humor in. Mm-hmm. And they saw that I had been on light duty for a while. Well, light duty is not light duty for me. And so they said, well, I see you had all 300 PFTs. If you had to take one tomorrow, what would you get? And I said, a 300. And they said, well, how can you be so sure? That sounds kind of cocky, doesn't it? And I'm like, no, sir. I said, I give myself a PFT every week. And he said, well, you're actually violating a direct order because that medical chit that you have for light duty, you're not supposed to do that. I said, yes, sir, but I'm also, first and foremost, I'm a Marine, and it's my obligation to be ready at all times, sir. And, they love that. I meant every word I said, but they ate that right up like it was candy. So I had that mentality. And I really impressed the base sergeant major. Mm-hmm. And he knew that General Quinn, he was a private in the 1st Marine Division and became the commanding general in the 1st Marine Division. And he really liked me, and he knew that. So anyways, they wanted me to re-enlist, and I said, well, the only way I'm re-enlisting is if you send me back. I want to go back to Parris Island, and I want to become a drill instructor. I said, just send me there. So I got a week or two to get all my uniforms and everything locked and cocked and squared away before I go into the school, because you don't really have time once they get you into school. So he said, okay. Well, it was one of them days, and I go to the career planner. He's kind of like your recruiter in civilian world. He's in your unit. And I go to see her. She was a gunnery sergeant. She goes, well, I already know what you're going to say, so why don't you just leave? And I was coming to do it because the sergeant major had just saw me. He said, I got you DI school. He said, run over there. We've already got it set up. You're going to Parris Island. You can do your week or two, and then you're going right into the school. And I'm like, cool. So, but this was something about that condescending attitude that she had that just, and I hadn't seen my mother in 5 years. And I mean, she was over in England. Mm-hmm. And all I wanted, and during this time, I didn't get leave like everybody else did. My leave just kept accumulating. So I said, all I want to do is I want to go over and see my mother. I don't care if it's for a week or whatever, but I just want to let her know her boy's okay and I'm doing good and whatever, you know. And so when she got that kind of attitude, it just soured me. So I went home, went down to Plattsburgh Air Force Base, took me a flight over, and got to see my mom. And then when I came back, you know, and there was two parts to that, because there's a difference between a lifer and a career Marine. So I wanted to be a career Marine. I wanted to know in my military mind that, yes, I am squared away. I am a career Marine. So got a job, did good. Actually, I got it over in England working for APES. I tripled. They hadn't had a raise in this department in like 10 years, 15 years, something like that.
Hold on, Patrick. Hold on. Let me back up, because you jumped a little, and that might have caused some confusion. When you were going to go to
England to see my mother.
Right. We didn't go to drill instructor school, but they said get some time to go to England. Now, your mom's British, is that correct?
No.
Oh, she was just in England.
No, she's American Indian Gavacho.
Okay, yeah. But she was in England. You're like, I'm going to go there and visit her.
Yep.
She did that. And how long were you there for? Like a week or so?
No, I stayed about a year, because I figured I was done with the Marine Corps, because I was going to prove that I could make it in the civilian community.
So instead of re-enlisting, because the career advisor was basically being a butt, you just kind of were like, whatever, I'm done. And you went home to Plattsburgh, took a flight, and went to England.
Yep, Upper Hayford.
And your mom, what does she do in England? She lived there?
Yeah, she was a breeder for Yorkies, Papillons, and King Charles. And my stepfather was in the Air Force at Upper Hayford.
Oh, he was Royal Air Force. He was British.
No, American.
Oh, and they just decided to resign.
Hayford is the United States. Actually, that's where they filmed part of the movie Octopus on.
They did, yep, Upper Hayford, yep. So, okay, so they're out there, they live there, you went out there, and then you end up staying a year.
Yep.
And so what year is this?
Well, not quite a year, but yeah.
What year is this now?
That would have been 82, I think.
Okay, so then you're there, you come back after.
Yes.
You decide, I'm going to go back.
I proved to myself I could take care of myself in the civilian community, that I could be just as resilient there as I was in the Marine Corps. Went back in because I couldn't stand civilians that were driving me crazy. Tell you that's honest truth. I just couldn't stand them. And I know you're going to get mad at me, but being on an Air Force base, there wasn't a whole lot of difference between the civilians and those guys. So I had a hard time.
Yeah, it's a different mentality. Absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely. Even with inter-services, is definitely different mentalities. You can get on a base and close your eyes and just the environment know if you are a Navy, Air Force, Marine, or exactly. So I get that. So then you come back in, and what do you come back in at?
0311.
So an infantry.
It's what I like. It's all I ever wanted to be.
Okay. And then what leads to the next kind of not so awesome event?
Got stabbed in the back, literally.
On base, off base.
Yeah. I was in charge when I went in the Corps. I re-signed back up.
Right.
Then they got a hold of my medical records. So, because if you seriously though, somebody can spend 30 years in the military and they're probably their jacket's probably a 30-second. He's probably got 3 pages in it.
Right.
Mine was at least 2, maybe 3 inches thick. So if you saw my records, you figured I was in a wheelchair.
Right. So
long story short is I ended up in Quantico to be medically discharged because they were trying to say that I was pre-existing. Before that, they sent me to Geiger. So I was going through infantry training school, ITS. It was kind of a punishment back then. General Kelly thought that was a great idea. So anyways, kind of a waste of time. But anyways, they said that they're going to discharge me. So I got a hold of Captain Schwab. He was a big part of my life because I think I told you about him before, Donna. Mm-hmm. And he was the one that complimented me and told me that statistically I should have been dead or in prison, and that I should be very proud of myself, how I could always turn a negative into a positive. Yeah. And I listened. I actually did so well, they gave me letters of accommodation and achievements and kept me on as a counselor for a short while.
Oh, good.
So that's how I knew him. Got out of the Marine Corps, come back in. I got a hold of him because he had kept in contact with me. And I told him what was going on. He says, get down here, I'll get you your medical board. So I'm like, okay. So I left South Carolina, took a bus, went over to Maryland. He admitted me into the hospital, got my medical board. So they sent me over to Quantico because they were deciding they were still going to discharge me. Okay.
So for the audience, just so you understand that you came, what they saw in your records with the gangrene and the hip issue and all that, they're like, the administration.
Well, 16 surgeries. They thought that was kind of a lot.
Right. There was bias. They weren't looking at the person. They're just reading a record going, we can't use this. And then Captain Schwab is like, no.
No, he was Admiral by then. Yeah.
Okay. So he's just like, we're going to get this cleared. Took a little bit, but you did get it cleared after you.
Yep.
Okay. And then you went on to where once you got that?
Well, they sent me to Quantico to medical platoon. So I'm checking into service company. Okay. And they said, who are you? Sergeant Kelly says, you can't be Sergeant Kelly. He's in a wheelchair. And I'm like, well, I'm here to tell you this is who I am. And here's my records. Because back then you couldn't even look at your records. They sewed it up in this little canvas bag and they had the key. So you can't even open it. So anyways, they put me in a medical platoon. Second day, once again, because I just can't stand to be idle. And people in medical platoon drove me crazy. I mean, they are people who pended dishonorable discharges, other unhonorable discharges, drug, alcohol, just all kinds of bad stuff.
They were all put in the platoon.
Yeah, they're all put in the medical platoon. So I went over and saw Captain Hall. Can't remember, I believe him too. But he's sent me a TDY up to Headquarters Company, which is the largest company in the Marine Corps. So I went up there, Major Murray, First Sergeant Drury, love that man more than anything in this world. He was Force Recon. And he's probably only about 5'5", maybe 5'6", but I'll tell you what, that guy had seen more, done more than you could ever dream of. Right. And so anyways, he took a real liking to me. So did Major Murray. She put me in charge of CI courses, Military Marine Corps Institute. You're doing your academic stuff. And so anyways, she was down to like a 68%, which she could have been relieved for. Within 30 days, I had her up to like 98%. I had kind of unique way of doing things. I'm very direct. So then they said, okay, how about this other job? They made me drug and alcohol. Well, finally, and I also became a temporary company gunny while I was there. And while I was waiting to get kicked out, they saw that I had a 300 PFT. So they were going through and inspecting generals and IG inspection. They said, hey, can you run the PFT for us? Sure. Come find out I'm the only one on the base with a 300 PFT. Well, I decided, I'm gonna keep myself busy. I found out they had the boxing team, so I signed up for the boxing team and I took the light heavyweight boxing. This is where divine intervention always comes in for me. So I took the light heavyweight boxing championship, and the colonel asked the sergeant major, said, who is that guy? I said, that's Sergeant Kelly. We're discharging him next week. He says, for what? He said, for being physically unfit. So the colonel,
everything you can see, right?
Right. So he took the paperwork, threw it in the circular file, right? And I was able to stay in. But one night, one of the
Patrick, let me interrupt just for
Yep.
because I want to make sure we stay on track. When
Mhm.
once you now you're like in, they're just like, hey, look at this guy. I know what the paper says, but he looks like he's completely fit. Let's go. How did you get into the big accident? Like, what happened? What were the things that happened that were leading you, unfortunately, back out the door?
Well, this was it, because I had 6 jobs. One of them, they had already fired 2 senior staff NCO ICs for incompetence with the medical platoon. Nobody could handle them. They were afraid of them because most of those guys were all married, and they didn't want to lose stripes. They didn't want to have their wife leave them because they can't provide for them, whatnot. So Major Marine First Sergeant Drury asked me if I could do it, and I'm like, aye, sir, done. So I take over the medical platoon, and I'm the kind of guy that I'm not going to let work 90% of the other guys that are trying to do their best to stay in. Because if I thought you were a worthy Marine, I would go to bat for you to try to keep you in. But I'm still going to make you do your job. Well, we had a couple of guys that were pending dishonorable discharges, and they didn't like the fact that I'd make them get up and work like everybody else. And like I told them, you're getting a check. By God, you're getting your little butt out of that bed, and you're going to work because you're a Marine until the day they give you your dishonorable discharge. And you will lock and cock. So anyways, guy kind of took that. He was pending 2 dishonorable charges. I didn't know what it was for at first. One of them was for punching out an officer. So he didn't have a problem putting the knife in a sergeant's back. So he waited for me after I came home from the gym, training with the first sergeant, and came up behind me, put the knife in my back. I chased him for a quarter of a mile before I went into shock. They sent me over to the Army base, almost died there. They called my mother in England, told her if she wanted to see me again, she better get over there because they didn't expect me to live. And they kept me there after the 2 surgeries on my back for the court-martial of the guy who stabbed me. And while I was going through the court-martial, the incompetence of administration forgot to let CMC know. So they're running me UA, unauthorized absent.
Oh, because I didn't know, right?
Because I had orders I was supposed to have been in that barracks when it blew up. And that was another reason why I kind of got a little screwy for a while with survivor's guilt.
How long was that recovery? How long did that?
Well, I never did get to recover. It was supposed to be for 2 years. But because of once they figured out what the paperwork snafu was, and CMC's telling them, no, we got to have him off base within 3 working days, 5 days. They took me when I was still supposed to be recovering, send me back to my infantry unit. And when the first thing they wanted me to do was take a PFT, and then they wanted me to do a 50-mile hump. Well, because of my legs and ankles not having very much elasticity at that time, and we'd be doing these runs out in the boondocks, and my ankles kept going out, so I kept constantly tearing the ligaments and tendons in my ankles, and they kept wanting me to do all these different things. Well, on my first 50-mile hump, I got through it, but then I fell, and it was like doing the funky chicken because all the muscles in my back are spasming because I didn't get that 2 years of recovery. Well, they didn't like that, and then they tried to give me all these other jobs. Well, and they tried to give me worthless jobs to kind of like wear me down. But I was smarter than they were. I learned what those jobs were, and I made them powerful, and they didn't like that.
What did you? So you're doing all this, and then what leads to now the paratrooper accident? Like, what happened?
Oh, that was it. No, that was it. Oh, that was Dr. Murphy almost beat me like a piñata. Yeah. Oh my gosh, he was so mad at me. Because after I got cleared for that, I'm still at 1st Marine Division there at Camp Pendleton. And we're jumping out of 46s with the Green Berets, Navy SEALs, everybody. And my parachute decided didn't want to open 5,200 feet. So I'm coming down. I go for my reserve. My reserve don't want to open. So now I'm trying to do it. My hands are sweating just talking about it. So I'm going for the reserve.
Yeah.
And just then I'm about 200 feet from the ground, if that. The main canopy opens, and now I'm hugging that reserve for everything I'm worth. Because if that sucker would have opened and given me a streamer, oh, Lord knows if I'd have made it or not. I don't know. But I was still going so fast. They had me in the wrong. They not only packed the chute wrong, they gave me the wrong size. They gave me a 26-foot chute, and I was supposed to be in an 8-foot. So that also affects your speed and whatnot. So anyways, come to find out, I was the only one to hit the drop zone all day.
Literally hit the drop zone.
I literally hit it. I'm a high achiever.
So that resulted in lots of broken bones, I'm assuming.
We did some damage that day. It spun my feet around like they were taffy. Brand new set of jump boots, and I'm begging them, and I'm laughing like crazy. So they're like, can't figure out why the hell I'm laughing, but that's always that's the way I deal with it.
They can't figure out why you're alive, Patrick. That's really
well, that too. And then the guy says, "Don't look at your feet." Well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna look at your feet. So I'm like, "Wow, that looks funny." And then I'm begging. Then I see the scissors. These idiots want to cut my boot off, and I'm like, "Dude, those were $16. Brand new pair of jump boots. First day I put them on. $16 back in 1979 or whatever it was a lot of money." So they said, "No, you don't understand. If we don't cut them off and go to pull the boot off, your foot's going with it, because the only thing holding your feet on is the skin." So they ended up doing that. And oh my God, I was in the cast up to my groin. Oh yeah, we were opioided up, and it was all purdy.
Eventually, all those injuries lead up to a medical board, right? I mean,
yes.
Although you are Superman, I'm pretty convinced, but even he has kryptonite.
Well, they sent me down to the Pink Elephant down in San Diego.
Right.
So you got to remember, I got a cast on my hand and a cast on my leg, because they did the surgery and all that. Right. And they were, at that point, they were putting my little happy patootie right out of the core. And so I go in, and they got all the officers sitting there and all that, and I jump down and start doing one foot, one hand push-ups, and I jump up and I say, "Can you do that?" And they're like, "No." So I'm laughing at them and saying, "Well, then how can you tell me I'm physically unfit?" So they thought that was funny, so they gave me another shot at it.
So when you get through all this, eventually the result does end up being a medical board. I'm going to move you ahead a little bit.
Yep. Sorry about that one. I missed it.
No. I like the memories. It's good. Yeah. So you move ahead and you decide, well, you don't decide. The Marine Corps is like, "Hey, like you're pretty beat up. It's time to go." Yeah. And now
my feet and all that stuff. Yeah, they were kind of sick of me.
You have a big mental transition that's going to happen, and you've got to channel that. And you fortunately channeled that into college at that time.
Yes. When I got out, I wanted to be, because the doctors, when I was I love medicine and I love drawing. My mother said I could draw before I could write my name. And actually got into a fight with the teacher. She kept giving me an F every day, and I just kept putting an eyeball on that's how I would sign it, with an eyeball. And I finally won. So that's how I got into medical illustration, because the one doctor said, "Well, if you like art and you like medicine," because when I was, because even when I was at Bethesda, I would help out, because I don't like not to work. So he said, "Well, why don't you combine it?"
For the audience, if they've never seen any medical book you open, you'll see drawings in there.
Or your doctor's office.
Right.
All those charts is stuff I did.
Medical artists, right? Exactly, they're medical artists.
I did scientific and medical.
So now you're out. You've got your degree. I'm going to switch this completely around a little bit.
Well, even there's a talk about resilience too. I get in because when I went to RIT, I got accepted for RIT. I wanted that one versus a different school that they were trying to send me to in Colorado, because they actually worked on cadavers. That's dead bodies. I break it down to simplicity. Everything's simplicity. Do I want a mechanic that actually worked on motors, or do I want a mechanic that only read a book? Personally, I want the mechanic that worked on the things. So that's why I chose it. But then when I got there, because I have several learning disabilities that I didn't know about. Mm-hmm. I just thought I didn't know how to read. And so I went down to get a tutorer, and they said, well, we can't get you a tutorer until we send you to the VA in Syracuse to be tested. Well, come to find out, I'm extremely dyslexic. I've got a couple other learning disabilities, but we found out that I had a photographic memory at the time. Right. So my doctors would work with me, most of my doctors. And the only reason I brag on that is because here I was thinking, once again, I was a failure because I couldn't read. And I had other gifts that I learned how to access. And I'm the only one to ever graduate from RIT. And I did my pre-med over at University of Rochester. I'm the only one to ever graduate with a 4.0 average. So really proud of that.
I'm going to switch this a little bit now.
Okay.
So everything you did, and I'm going to scroll this way ahead, right? So your injuries have led to the point where like walking is not an option. Now, I'm going to say it may not have been an option, but it hadn't stopped what you were doing. You're still extremely active. You still find things to do. But we got to a point where the doctors were like, hey, and you are like, I cannot, my muscles are not strong enough anymore from all those injuries. So you're now in a wheelchair, right? When I met you were loud and proud.
Well, it started with them keep giving me more opioids. They put braces on my legs, and I would try, and I kept falling. We understand that because there was no elasticity in my ligaments and tendons. And I was on fentanyl, morphine, oxycodone, Demerol, and hydrocodone all at the same time. I've had doctors argue with me that I should have been dead, that I was lying, that it would kill me. And my ex-wife said, well, do you want to see the bottles? Because I'll show them to you. And I ended up gaining like 70 pounds. I was in an electric wheelchair. All I could use and I had shoulder surgeries, both hands, and on my shoulders and on my hand and in my hip again. Mm-hmm. And so they put me in an electric wheelchair, only had one arm. Best thing that ever happened to me, I hate saying it. I mean, she's a wonderful person, but my ex-wife left me for two younger guys. But don't feel bad, Jay, because that means it took two young guys to replace me.
I hear you.
So, it's obviously traumatic, but I hated my life. And I didn't like myself, didn't recognize myself. So when she left me and I ended up in San Antonio and was by myself struggling, I decided, no, nobody's controlling me anymore, because half the time they would forget to send me my morphine and stuff, and going through those withdrawals, it was killing me. So I ended up losing a lot of weight. I lost all the weight. Got down to about like 193 before the doctors told me to stop, that I was starting to look way too and Marine Corps always wanted me to get down to like 155, 160. I'm like, that ain't going to happen. You'd have to cut both my legs off to get that. Because I got massive legs. I was an amateur bodybuilder. And
how tall?
I was the strong.
How tall?
Pardon?
How tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
Okay, you're 5'9". So yeah, for a visual reference, right? Yeah.
Right.
And you're muscular, so
Yes, when I was a bodybuilder,
right,
I was 210 pounds,
right,
but there was no fat on me. And even then, I could do things that my whole life, I was always muscular, and because I wanted to be muscular, because I never wanted to be a victim again. And like even when I went out for cross country, the coach told me I didn't have a runner's body. So when I beat his best runner that day, he had to come and ask me to get on the team. It was kind of fun because I think like the Greeks do. Healthy mind, healthy body. You got to keep both in balance. Otherwise, you're only half a person. Same way in the Marine Corps. They always think a garrison Marine is better than a field Marine. And in the field Marine, say, if you can only do one, you're half the Marine. You should be able to do both. Right. Otherwise, you're lacking. That's just my military mind opinion.
So you turned your mindset around. You were like,
yes,
for this, and you told me the story. You took yourself off your medications one by one.
Yes. Yes, I got myself down to just 120 milligrams. And I used a lot of the principles that my grandmaster, Tai Chung, it's Kwang Kido, Vietnamese, Chinese, Kung Fu. He gave me a lot of things to work on. And then also when I went over, the last time I saw him was 5 years ago, I think it was, he gave me breathing exercises, focusing things to work on. And, people think it's hokey, but I'll tell you what, no way it ain't. I'm living proof of it right now. I got off everything. The last day I ever took an opioid was when my service dog of 15 years, Shadow, passed away, died 6 times in my arms, and died another 6 times while he was at the animal hospital. And I figured if he could fight that hard to stay with me, then I could get off this. It wouldn't be a problem. And that's the last day I ever took it. And everything really changed when I went back after here, but back to Vegas. And my mom, who was my doctor for 10 years, she converted a casita for me. And I'm a brave son of a gun when I got somebody looking out for me. It's when I'm by myself. I was terrified, so I wouldn't do anything, and my body just deteriorated because I was afraid of falling. And how long would it be before somebody found me? So, anyways, when I got there, I would push myself with the wheelchair. I tried to get up on the Canadian crutches. And one day I was over at the VA, and you got to remember, at this time I only had really the one arm, and I could do the other one, but it would just keep hurting, grinding all the time. So I was looking out the window, and I see these guys on these cool bikes. So I take my electric wheelchair and I trace them down, and I start talking with them, and I'm riding on the side of them, and they were nice enough to slow down to talk to me. And I said, wow, those are cool bikes. And they said, well, why don't you come out and see if we can't, hook you up, come out to, I forget the name of the park. It was in Vegas. But anyways, I go out there, and it took 3 men to pick me. I mean, full grown, about your size, Jay, to be able to pick me up out of my electric wheelchair, put me in the bike, and then when I was done riding, pick me up out of it and put me back in the wheelchair. Not an easy process. And so anyways, I thought I was a real stud when I started on the hand cycle, and I was having problems with my shoulder. So they said, do you have any use of your legs? Now, you got to remember what I originally premised with is I don't lie, cheat, or steal. But I will not take responsibility if you assumed I said something that I alluded to. So they said, do you have any use of your legs? Well, that's a wide open question, right? If I can drag them, I can use them. So I said yes. So they got me a recumbent bike. That's the one. It's a 3-wheel bike, just like your hand cycle, but you use your feet. And when I first got in it, I'd have to push one leg, because my legs, joke you not, if my wife is here, she'd tell you, they were like bread dough. There was nothing there. They were always blue and purple and swolled up like you wouldn't believe. And they were always worried about amputating the little booger bears. And, I'm kind of attached to them, tell you the truth, Jane. And so I'm pushing one leg, then the other leg. And then the goal was to get around just that little park area. Then they let me out on the reservoir, and I got around the reservoir, and then they let me on the road. Boy, they were dumb enough to put me on the road. So I get out on the road, and I can remember this like it was yesterday. Because every time, every once in a while, those Facebook memories come up, and I remember bragging because I did 6 miles, and I think I did like 6 miles an hour, and I thought that was like speedy. Well, you got to remember though, when you're bedridden, and then you get into an electric wheelchair, and you're only doing 5.1 miles an hour. I mean, you really feel free when you're doing that. But I'll tell you what, when you're on a bike, and because people treat you different when you're in a wheelchair. I don't care what anybody says. And people come up and start talking to you and say, "Oh, that's a cool bike," and this and that. And I feel so free. It was life-changing for me. So, and then my buddies would lie to me, and they'd say, because I found out about this Texas challenge. So I set another goal, and once I set a goal, I gotta achieve that, or kill me. So anyways, I said, I want to go to the Texas challenge. That's my goal. And they kept saying, "Oh yeah, Kelly, you keep working at it, you'll be able to do it." Well, next thing you know, I'm doing 50 miles, 80 miles every day. I'm doing averaging between 20, 25 miles an hour. If I'm going downhill, I can get up to 55 miles an hour. Well, I'm working my little patootie off. I get accepted. Todd Setter, who's the CEO of We Are Project Hero, took a like to me. I don't know why, but he makes me laugh. And he's just so funny. So anyways, I'm 1 week, I'm like 5 days out from going to the Texas Challenge. Right? I'd worked a whole, 2 or 3 years to do this. I get run over by a 3/4 ton truck. She pushes me a football field down. I'm low crawling like I was back in the Corps, my God. And so it tore me up bad, tore my bike up. VA wouldn't get me another bike because they said, we already got you a bike. And so Todd got me a loaner bike. He got me a thing for it. And I worked my little patootie off. And a year later, I'm doing the Texas Challenge. And I was so good. I don't mind bragging. We had to go up these hills and We Are Project Hero makes you ride with a push bar. Well, mine's a pull bar. I don't call it a push bar because I pull people with that bar. Nobody pushes me. So anyways, we're going up these 3 hills and this one guy's hurting, right? So I said, well, just grab onto the bar. I'll pull you up. And this other ride leader guy comes up and he says, I told you not to have him helping Kelly today. He's not feeling good. I said, you don't understand. He ain't helping Kelly. Kelly's pulling him up these hills. So that's the way my military mind works.
When I hear all of this, Patrick, just, service, seeking to be the best, always looking to drive yourself to new accomplishments, all that you've been through today, still wheelchair bound. That's, I met you through the bike that was donated through Operation.
Oh, that thing is, yes.
Yeah, amazing. And when I met you, I mean, your upper body strength is still evident. You compete in martial arts tournaments today.
Yes.
Yeah, winning medals. Well, Patrick, you epitomize resiliency, right? I hope the listeners listening to what you've shared during this episode, we're at that point where we're going to start to land the plane. What you've shared is just an unwillingness to give up, give in.
It's a mentality thing.
It is a mentality thing. You talked about the shift even.
Well, it's what my grandmaster taught me, certain things he taught me. It's obstacles are all you see when you take your eyes off the goal. And that's what people do is they see all the obstacles. They can never get to the goal. It's like, I don't see the obstacles. I'm going to go through the obstacles, around the obstacles, underneath the obstacles. I don't care what it takes.
Yeah.
I'm getting through them because I've got to get to that goal.
Persistence, Patrick, persistence.
And winners never quit and quitters never win.
100%.
Just go one more round.
I think that your seed planted with your grandfather, and I think it got watered and nurtured through, sounds crazy, but through every hardship you had.
Yes.
That seed interestingly grew, right? And it continued to grow. That resiliency continued. And every time, you went down, and I can tell the audience, you have not heard all the stories because I have sat and talked to them before, and unfortunately, we don't have that time that we would like.
There's a lot of them.
You have nurtured that, and now here you are, doing all these things that you just listed out because of that resiliency that continued to grow.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Well, I never say I'm better than anybody else, but I'm just.
You'll say you're cuter than them, though.
Huh?
You'll say you're cuter than them.
Well, that's a fact. I mean, come on, you can't argue with facts.
Patrick, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us and share, and I hope your story of resilience and that they're inspired and recognize that they've still got it within themselves as well. So
it's choices.
Yeah, it is.
You got a choice to either give in or fight back.
Yeah.
And you're always your own best self advocate.
Yeah, 100%.
Whatever you want to do.
100% sure. Really.
See it and believe it. And be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself positively. That was one of my biggest things when I was failing. Was I would call myself a loser or a bum. Very self-talk, positive self-talk is very important.
I agree. 100% agree. Well, right. I think it was amazing.
And when I'm riding, I always say, catch me if you can.
I like it.
And there's no joke.
Yeah, it's no joke.
He does like 80 to 100 mile round trip. So
yeah, he pushes hard.
Catch him if you can. That's
that was good stuff. Yes. It's a good episode.
Yep, it was. So, Patrick, thank you so much for being on the show. It was wonderful. And, I said, I knew I wanted to have you on the first time I met you. Even you said, we're going to be friends. And we are. Yeah. We are so
If I like somebody, I like somebody. You're stuck with me. Like it or not.
No, I nothing else from me, Patrick. It's always fun being with you. Good energy, big smile.
Well, I got a new adventure.
Yeah, that
I'm really interested in. Is because I think I told you, Donna, but now I'm having heart issues, and it would be real easy for me to give myself an excuse not to do things, but not me. I'm taking control of my life again. I'm going to get myself healthy, and whether what the doctors like or don't like, I'm back on the bike. And as soon as I can get cleared from not passing out, my little happy butt's going to be back on the road, and we're going to make good use of that hand cycle.
Good.
That's good stuff.
Good. All right. Well, let's wind this down. I think what I want the audience to take away is just exactly, Patrick, what you said. If you take your eyes off the goal, then all you see now is all the obstacles, right? So obstacles will always be in front of us. They will always be there. Always. They are there to teach us a lesson and to reach our goal. Patrick, I think you are the epitome of resiliency.
Well, you're only saying that because you know that I'm 200 pounds of twisted steel and by God, sex appeal. That's why you're saying that.
I knew he was coming in, dang it. Okay, that was my moment. Forget it now. Yeah. We're moving on.
Sorry.
On behalf of Beyond the Frontline and Coming Home Well, we do thank our audience. We thank you for sharing this time and space with us. And we do encourage you to listen, to share, to reach out to us. It means the world to us. So from all of us to all of you, you have a wonderful holiday season.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Frontline, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. Follow us on Instagram at ComingHomeWell_BTS or on Twitter at ComingHomeWell. Thanks again. And until all are home and all are well.